I am told that Penny Mordaunt is now making her official launch as the new Tory party leader. That's not her, that is Andrea Leadsom, who I'm told is backing Penny Mordaunt. So I think we've got the right one. Let's listen to Andrea Leadsom announcing Penny Mordaunt's candidacy for the party.
Brexit. And we served together in Theresa May's cabinet. And I know Penny to be an incredibly hard-working, totally capable and utterly... I was going to say, utterly honourable friend and colleague. Yeah. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the Right Honourable Penny Mordaunt MP, our next Prime Minister.
I must just alert you to, obviously, the flash photography going on here. This is Penny Mordaunt standing, throwing her hat in the ring as leader of the Tory party and Prime Minister.
In the last few days, I have been undertaking the parliamentary equivalent of speed dating. I've had a lot of good conversations with a lot of wonderful colleagues, and I've learned a few things. I've learned that many of them were councillors before they came into Parliament. Many of them work for voluntary organisations. Many of them have run businesses, and some still do. Many of them are still pulling a shift in our NHS. And many of them serve in our armed forces and are veterans. They're people that want to serve their country. They're people that want to step up and take responsibility. And when I meet people like that, I want to know why. Why do they do that? Why do they want to take responsibility? Was it some experience in their life? Was it an inspirational person that they met? And when did it happen? And for me, it was when I was 9 years old and I was standing on the hot walls in Portsmouth watching the Falklands Task Force leave Portsmouth Harbour. Now, I didn't know much about that scene at 9 years old, but witnessing it and Thatcher's resolve at the time, well, I knew my country stood up to bullies. Yeah. And I knew that that was important enough for some of those warships and my classmates' fathers not to return home. I'd seen duty and service and sacrifice for something greater than ourselves. And it's the reason why today, when people ask me about Britain and our role in the world, I say we don't need a new role in the world. We just need to be ourselves. Yeah. We feel these values keenly. It's why we serve as parliamentarians. They're the values of our party, and they're the values of our country too. Our greatest moments have been when we have been the living embodiment of those values, and our greatest failures were when we came adrift from them. Recently, I think our party has lost its sense of self. If I can compare it to being in the Glastonbury audience when Paul McCartney was playing his set, we indulged all those new tunes, but what we really wanted was the good old stuff that we all knew the words to. Low tax, small state, personal responsibility. Yes. We need to get back to that because we've got some really serious challenges ahead. We've got to stave off a recession. We've got to deliver on the huge ambition that the British people have, having left the European Union. We've got to catch up after COVID. We have a war. and we have a manifesto to deliver, and standards and trust to restore. And the British people are fed up. They're fed up with us not delivering, they're fed up with unfulfilled promises, and they're fed up with divisive politics. So how do we turn this around? Well, first of all, we have to admit that Whitehall is broken. There are great people that work there, but in my administration, you will see it look and feel very different, very fast. We need to do some serious machinery of government changes. We're going to have a tighter cabinet. We're going to have ministers of state that have clear and timely deliverables and are powerful and can reach across Whitehall. And we're going to modernise government with the white heat of modernisation. We need to move at the speed that business and science needs us to. Secondly, we need to build a modern economy. Now, you'll have heard pitches this week on tax and spend. I'm going to talk about growth and competition. My key fiscal rule is that debt as a percentage of GDP will fall over time. My monetary policy will be on controlling inflation, and our supply-side reforms will yield a Brexit dividend on investment, infrastructure, incentives and innovation. And we also need to let our citizens live well. From me, you're going to get a relentless focus on cost of living issues. I've already announced that on day one we are going to slash VAT on fuel at the pump by half, and we are going to raise income tax thresholds for basic and middle income earners in line with inflation. But we also need to extract more value. For example, through simplifying and reducing the cost of being tax compliant for our citizens and for business. And we need to get things to work better. I'm going to be putting power back into the hands of parents. We are going to create personal budgets to allow every child access to their entitlements to subsidised childcare at any time prior to them starting full-time school. And we are going to create some task forces to get a grip on the crisis and paralysis in accessing NHS services and dentists, and also, and vitally, stagnation in house building. Fourthly, if we are really serious about levelling up, we cannot be limited in our ambition by what is in the Treasury's coffers. We have to get real about this. So I want to align government planning cycles with those of business and the charity sector, which are already aligned. And that will give us huge opportunities to co-fund, to form partnerships, to do more for our citizens. And we need some national missions in this country that the whole country and every sector can get behind. And I also want to set up some social capital pots that MPs themselves can administer. You guys are best placed in your communities to spot those gaps and spot the opportunities, and I want to give you more agency to serve your communities. And finally, I want all of our citizens to be able to live in safety and security. I'm committing to our manifesto commitment on defence spending and our NATO spending pledge. But I am also going to remove some of the strains on our armed forces and take tasks from them that they don't need to do. And so I'm going to stand up a civil defence force, as I outlined when I rewrote this country's resilience strategy. And I want us to consolidate and capitalise on the huge amount of civic action there was during the pandemic, all those volunteers that came forward to make our country the most resilient nation on earth. My country and our party has been through a lot in the last few years, but we have stamina. Make no mistake about that. In that moment of crisis during the pandemic, the British public stepped forward. They were moved by the values of this country too. They are capable and responsible people. They expect their government to be too. They expect us to deliver on both the mandate and the majority they handed us. I can, and we will.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Penny. Now, unusually, Penny is determined to answer a number of questions. So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, hold on to your hats. But I'm first of all going to take a question from the gentleman here. Thank you.
You've made a very attractive childcare policy announcement. Can you be more specific about what it means for parents?
It's the same amount of money, but we're going to stop telling parents how they have to spend it. What it will mean is it will be completely flexible. It will be able to be used to be tailored to what that family needs. And we don't have to spend more money to deliver some of these services better. We just have to do them in a smarter way.
Great. Beth Rigby, Sky.
Thank you. Penny Mordaunt, you're the big unknown in this contest. You were never a Johnson supporter. You were never part of his reshuffled cabinet team running the country over the past couple of years. The public have no idea who you are, and neither do lots of us either. What one diarist described you as, Theresa May with bigger hair. Are you? And if you win this election, will you, like May, call another general election to get your mandate rather than riding on the coattails of Boris Johnson?
I was a candidate at the last general election. I stood on the same platform as these good people in front of me. And I think what the public want us to do is deliver on that now. I would like to know you all better, and I hope I will get the opportunity to.
What about a general election? Because will you need another mandate from the public?
I stood on the same platform as Boris Johnson and every single member of Parliament in my party. We have a mandate and we have a big majority, and I think the British people want us to get on and deliver for them.
A lot of MPs right now are deliberating whether to back you or Liz Truss. What is the big difference between the two?
I'm not going to talk about other candidates. They can set out their stall. But what I would say to you is who can not just win this contest, but win a general election. If we do not win the next general election, all those opportunities and the vision that the British people had from us leaving the European Union will not be realised. We must win that election. I am your best shot at winning that election. I am the candidate that Labour fear the most.
Say to the vast majority of people listening to this morning who've not come across you before and perhaps wonder whether you have it in you to be Prime Minister in just a couple of months' time? What do you say to them?
I think that I am one of the best prepared candidates in this contest. I've served in a huge number of ministerial positions. I've also served in the private sector, I've worked in the public sector and in the charity sector, and you'll know I've thought deeply about where our country is at, who we need to compete with, and how we can put through the reforms and modernisation with our mandate, with the management in Whitehall, with the mutuality that binds us together, and with our markets. We have to pick up the pace to realise the opportunities that this country has, and I am best placed to do that.
Hi Penny, we all thought you were a fantastic defence secretary. How do you think your experience in the armed forces will be an asset for you going forward to be the next Prime Minister?
Well, I opened my campaign by talking about teamwork. I think we've had a failed model of leadership, and that's part of the problem why government hasn't been as effective as it could be. I know from my naval training that it's about harnessing the power of the team, and that is how I'm going to govern.
Hi Penny, some of your rivals want a war on woke and for wedge issues to be a key part of mobilising Conservative voters in the run-up to the next federal election. If you're Prime Minister, will you throw them the red meat they want?
Well, I think we should be talking about cost of living. I think we should talk about healthcare. But let me deal with the issue that is floating in the background there. I think it was Margaret Thatcher that said that every Prime Minister needs a willy. A woman like me doesn't have one. Hi.
You said that the Conservative Party has lost its sense of self, but you're also sticking with the 2019 manifesto. So how do you plan to solve that problem? And if I may, underneath the surface within your party, there's some quite sexist notions coming out about you who are trying to destroy you as a candidate already. How do you feel about that?
Well, they're very sensible people because I am a threat to their campaign. What I'm going to be talking about in this campaign, I said to my campaign team on our first meeting, we are going to campaign as we would govern, and the only people I am going to take the fight to is our opposition.
Thank you very much. Andy Bell, 5 News. You are still inheriting a mandate won when Boris Johnson was the leader of the party. Are you a break with Boris Johnson, or are you continuity to Johnson?
I am very different to Boris Johnson, but we stood on the same manifesto, and I think we believe in those same things. We both were passionate about the opportunity that Britain leaving the regulatory orbit of the EU was, not just to our country, but to the world. And I understand that very well, and I am determined to capitalise on that.
Was he a good Prime Minister?
I think we should thank him for delivering Brexit. It was an incredibly difficult thing to do, as we all remember, and I think we should remember him for that.
Chris Hope, last question.
Penny, last one, a quick one and a straightforward one. How do you define a woman?
I'm a woman. I am biologically a woman, and I can tell you, Chris, that if you have been in the Royal Navy and you have competed physically against men, you understand the biological difference between men and women. Yeah. Thank you all so much. Thank you for coming. Let's win this campaign.
Well, that's Penny Mordaunt. She is currently one of those who are out in front in the campaign, but there's a long way for it to go. And of course, there are 8 contenders in the race. And what is important today is that they each need to secure the backing of 30 MPs to be able to go forward into the next round of voting, which will see those 8 whittled down to 2 and then a new leader in place by September the 5th. And what's going on, not just the pitches that the different contenders are making in front of the cameras, their teams making calls to MPs behind the scenes, but also MPs themselves are in some instances gathering and deciding whether potentially to put their support as a group behind one contender. The ERG, the group of about 60 MPs, 60 Brexit MPs, meeting around about now to decide whether they fall behind one candidate on the right. There's been some discussion around potentially the vote fragmenting and seeing Rishi Sunak succeeding because the number of votes has been spread too thin for similar candidates. So that's something that's being actively considered. It's the 7th Tory leadership campaign in 25 years, and not very long ago it was Boris Johnson that won. He's actually going to be in action today. Prime Minister's Questions, that's coming up at midday.